students, welcome again in our online teaching program. Myself Minal Deshpande and we are learning History and Civics of Standard 6 Maharashtra State Board English Medium syllabus. In our previous video, I gave an activity to you. Hope so activity was completed and properly done by you. Students, now in today's video, we are going to learn a lesson number 10, Ancient India Cultural. See, some points are here. 10.1, Language and Literature. 10.2, Life of the People. 10.3, Science. 10.4, Centers of Education. 10.5, Art and Literature. 10.1, Language and Literature. There was an uninterrupted literary tradition in ancient India, and this literature was produced in the Sanskrit, Ardhamagdi, Pali and Tamil languages. See, 4 languages were there, and it included religious literature, treatises on grammar, epics, plays, stories, etc. Okay, these all things are considered in it. Students, now first literature, that is Sangam literature. Sangam means a gathering of learnt men. The literature compiled in such gatherings is known as Sangam literature. Okay, that is a gathering of learnt men. It is the most ancient literature in Tamil. See, that was written in Tamil. Silappadikaram and Manimekhalai are two of its well-known epics. From Sangam literature, see students, we learn about the political and social life in South India during this period or during that period. This was the Sangam literature. Now the second one, that is religious literature. The important texts include Agamagrantha, Tipitaka and Bhagavad Gita. Okay, in religious literature, 3 texts are there. The Jain Agamagranthas are written in the Prakrit languages of Ardhamagdi, Shaurseni and Maharashtri. The Agamagranthas are a collection of the teachings of Vardhaman Mahavir. In Agamagranthas, there is a collection of teachings of Vardhaman Mahavir. Literary works like Mahapuranas, biographies, stories, etc. in it, that are available in the Apabhramsha language. Students, Siddhasen Divakar wrote Samay Sutta, a work in Prakrit on jurisprudence. Also, Vimal Suri has told the story of Rama in Paumacharya, a poetic work in Prakrit. Also, Haribhadra Suri's Samay Rachachakaha and Udyotan Suri's Kuvalaya Malakaha are well-known works. See students, some different words are there that are not familiar to us, so just read it again and again, then only you can understand. See, here one point is given for you. It is believed that most of languages in the region from North India up to Maharashtra are derived from Prakrit and Sanskrit. And the word Prakrit is derived from a word meaning natural. The Prakrit languages were languages in a daily use of the people. They can be divided into 4 groups, namely the Paishachi, Shauraseni, Maghdi and Maharashtri languages. Marathi developed from Maharashtri. In this process of the development of modern languages like Marathi from the Prakrit languages, the original forms changed and they are called Apabhramsha. Their original form changed and because of that they are known as a Apabhramsha languages. The modern languages have developed from Apabhramsha languages. Okay, means already these names, whatever I told you about the writer and their books that are in Apabhramsha language. See, the Pitaka has 3 Pitakas or parts. The word Pitaka means a basket or a collections. Here it means a section. The Tipitaka is written in Pali. It consists of 3 categories of text. See, 3 categories are there. First one, that is Sutta Pitaka. Sutta Pitaka. It includes the text of Gautam Buddha's teachings or sermons and they are called Suktas. In second text, Vinay Pitaka, the word Vinay here means rules. The Vinay Pitaka gives the rules of behavior which bhikkhus and bhikkhunis in the Bauddha Sangha should follow in their day-to-day lives. See, Sutta Pitaka, Vinay Pitaka, and the third one, that is Abhidhamma Pitaka. Pitaka means in this Buddhist doctrine has been explained. A text titled Attakatha or Arthakatha which explains the Tipitakas is well known. Learned women composed gathas, means narratives about their own experiences. They have been compiled in the Theri Gatha. They are in the Pali language. The Bhagavad Gita, which is a sacred text of the Hindus, means a very holy, is a part of the Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita tells us that each one of us should do our duty without expecting rewards. It also says that the path of devotion to God is open to all. See, whatever message is written over here about Bhagavad Gita or whatever in Bhagavad Gita, and the message is that we have to do our duty without any expectations, and also God is for everyone. It is open for all. Adi Shankaracharya lived during the 8th century CE. He emphasized knowledge of renunciation. He wrote commentaries explaining the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita. He established 4 maths in 4 directions of India at Badrinath, Dwarka, Jagannath Puri, and Sringeri. See, Adi Shankaracharya, who emphasized knowledge and renunciation, means saying that you no longer want something or believe in something. Okay. Kautilya wrote the Arthashastra, in which he discusses at length what constitutes an excellent administrative system. Now, treatise on grammar. Ashtadhyayi, written by the grammarian Panini, is considered to be the standard work on Sanskrit grammar. So students, Panini, who was a grammarian in Sanskrit, and Patanjali wrote Mahabhashya. It explains the principle given in Panini's Ashtadhyayi. Now about Arthashastra. This is a work by Kautilya. It consists of detailed discussion of administrative matters such as the duties of a king, criteria for selecting a minister, systems of defense, types of force, the formation of an army, plans for espionage, organization of the treasury and other offices, judicial system, investigation of the theft, types of punishment, etc. Now, Arsha and classical epics. Ramayana and Mahabharata are the two Arsha epics of ancient India. Arsha means composed by rishis or sages. The Ramayana was composed by the rishi Valmiki. We know. The main character of Ramayana is Sri Ram. Mahabharata has been composed by the sage Vyas. Its main theme is the war between the Kauravas and Pandavas. And it also tells us about Lord Krishna's life. The Mahabharata provides a comprehensive picture of the various human sentiments and emotions and their consequences also. Sometimes there is such a period in the history of a language, literature and art that its glory remains undiminished even later on. The art, literature, etc. produced in such a period is said to be a classical. Now, Raghuvansha and Kumar Sambhuva by Kalidasa, Kiritarjuniya by Bharavi, and Shishupalvat by Maghath are well-known compositions of the ancient period written in classical Sanskrit. See students, we took information about language and literature, and in that Sangam literature, religious literature, we took information about them. In religious literature, we know that who wrote whatever things written by the people. Also we know about the Sutta Pitika, Vinay Pitika and Abhidhamma Pitika also we took information about Bhagavad Gita and the message. Then we know about the Adi Shankaracharya. Also we took information about the treatise on grammar, Arsha and classical epics. Now we are going to theatre. India has an ancient tradition of telling a story through songs, music and dance. And these arts have been discussed in great detail in the Natya Shastra by Bharat Muni. When these arts are presented with supporting dialogues, they are known as a theatre. Among the ancient Sanskrit plays, Swapna Vasavidatta by Bhasa, then Abhijan Shakuntal by Kalidasa, etc. are famous. See students, now narrative literature. In ancient times, storytelling was used to educate people through entertainment. That time, peoples were educated. The way which was used, that way was the storytelling. And Gunadhyaya's Brihat Katha, written in language called Paishachi, is well known. Panchatantra, composed by Pandit Vishnu Sharma, is an excellent example of narrative literature. Yes, Panchatantra, we all know about it. This text has been translated into many languages. Similarly, Buddha Jataka tales are also very well known. Yes or not? See, in this way, we know about literature. Now we are going to point number 2, life of the people. At that time, the literature of ancient India sheds light on the way of the life of the common people of the time, and those were prosperous times due to the flourishing internal as well as foreign trade. The society was divided into different castes. There were organizations of traders as well as artisans. These organizations were called Shrenis. Trade was carried out by sea as well as land route. Indian goods like a fine textile, ivory, precious stones, spices, beautifully made earthen pottery were in great demand in foreign countries. And the main crops were rice, wheat, barley, and lentil. The diet of the people included food items made from these besides meat, fish, milk, ghee, and fruits. The people mostly wore cotton garments, though silk and woolen garments were also worn. Their clothes resembled today's dhoti, uparne, mandase, sari, etc. The concept of stitching clothes was introduced in India during the Kushana period. See students, now we took information about 10.2 also, life of the people. Okay. Now the next points from this lesson that we will see in our next video. Now for you, your homework. See students, you have to make list. You have to make A and B, two sections, and in A section you will write the names of the writers, and in B section you will write the name of their book or whatever their written work, the name of that. For example, we can say that Siddhasen Divakar, he wrote Samay Sutta. Yes or not? In this way. Okay, this is your homework. Make this list carefully, and for that read this lesson again and again. Okay.